Dude, that's so much work. All of that is custom fiberglass built on top, dude.
No, they sell the wide body kit that you cut out because it's all fiberglass, right? So you cut it out and they have them, and then you're done.
That is so much work, dude.
Yeah, and those cars are pieces of
Damn. Welcome back, guys, to No Traction Faction. We're still working on this Bronco, getting that Coyote motor in there. At this point, we should have already teased the Whipple 3-liter Gen 5 supercharger that we're going to be throwing onto this beast of a car once it's done and fully integrated into the original Bronco Gen 6 that we've got here. Today, what we're going to go ahead and do is show you some updates. We are very fortunate to have lucked out with a new transfer case, so we'll have full functionality, so we're going to get into that. And then we're going to be doing a bunch of work on the motor, getting it prepped for this supercharger. Although we are going to run it NA to start with, we are going to go ahead and start with some modifications to ultimately make sure they can handle basically as much boost as we want to throw at it, but in reality as much boost as this vehicle and this project should really be able to take. So we'll go over some upgrades there. We got some oil pump gears, we got some sprockets, we got a damper, a few other things that we're going to go ahead and use to get it really capable for off-roading and really capable for speed ultimately. And we've just got some other upgrades. We're going to introduce our boost controller as well for the supercharger. Very interesting setup for this kind of power adder compared to what usually would be on a turbocharger. But regardless, we'll get into that a little bit, and we're going to be doing some painting on the rest of the parts that essentially attach to the motor. So the trans member, the motor mounts, the upper motor mounts that we have, get that all finished out. And yeah, that should pretty much conclude us. So go ahead and stay tuned. We're going to get right into it and talk about our transfer case. All right, guys. So here we've got a brand new Ford Everest transfer case. So this transfer case is what we're ultimately going to be using for this Bronco build, attaching to the 10R80 that we've got right over here. But the really cool part about this Everest case, again, these are brand new. They're not actually sold in the US where we're located, and so we ended up having to get this imported. But the really cool part is it's a little bit stouter. It has the tail CV shafts that we're looking for instead of the Ranger case that has a flange style, and it's the exact same diameters as the existing drive shaft. So that's really, really cool. The angle and the drop is all identical. Another really cool part, so this is a Borg-Warner case like the original F-150 that we took off of it compared to the Ranger case, which is a Dana splicer. And so pretty much all the electronics, all the wiring, it's identical to what the F-150 and its harness has, but just in this more increased drop state. Obviously the same adapter with the exception of this ring that we'll get into here in a little bit. But the big key here is this is a clutch unit with a Haldex clutch pack and electromagnetic control system. And so this will allow us to be able to run the 4A system and essentially have all of the original capabilities that this other Borg-Warner case for the F-150 has. It's basically just as stout, but at the appropriate angle that we need to be able to mimic the Ranger case, which we just took off here. So again, you can see kind of the differences there. That motor comes out. CV shaft is the same on the front, but on the back we've got a T-flange. So not terribly ideal, but definitely a good starting point for us. The nice part is these Ranger case and the Everest case, since they're built on the same platform, they're the exact same setup in terms of the mount, and the only difference with this case ultimately is that it's about 2 inches longer because of that clutch pack that's in there. Obviously compared to the F-150, which is just a massive higher angle system than what we're looking at here for the 10R80. So this was definitely going to be a big win for us to be able to get that same functionality. A little bit hard to get and a little bit hard to source, but definitely going to be useful. So the only issue that we're going to have to be able to get it on there is for some reason it looks like on the 2021 or 2022 model year, they likely changed the casting on the 10R80s. Although the pattern and everything's the same, this centering lip has a chamfer on it that we're ultimately going to have to get rid of. And so we're going to go ahead and just kind of file and Dremel this down a little bit. We only got to take off 10, 30 thousandths or something like that. So it's not crazy amount of aluminum. And again, this is just acting as kind of an initial centering section, whereas the actual bolts are taking the shear and the torque for the entire system. But otherwise, all the bolts, that alignment pin and the depths, we've been over here double checking all of our work. So we've been double checking all of our work, and we've got all of the math making sure that the dimensions between the three cases will line up. We've got good depth on that output shaft of the 10R80 going into the different cases. You can see here the Everest will ultimately, I believe, have the best depth compared to all three of them, so it has the most total engagement area. The only difference is that OD on the lip. There at the bottom is around 6.88 compared to the Ranger at 6.8 and the F-150 at about 6.8 as well. So that's the only thing we've got to modify. And yeah, what?
You're wrong.
What?
You don't even know what the math is.
Yeah, well, it's because I didn't do it. Anyway, everything works out great, and it's going to be fantastic. All right, guys, so we're starting on that modification to the Everest case. We're going to go and start disassembling the front of the 5.0 motor so that we can drop in some upgrades for the Whipple blower that's ultimately going to go on this once we get it all tested out in its NA form. But now that we've already got it out and it's easy to work on, we thought this would be the best opportunity to get these gears in without a bunch of other stuff in the way. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to swap in the MMR oil pump gears. These are billet gears from MMR. Very common upgrade required because of the cast gears being quite weak in the original Gen 1 through Gen, I believe, 4 5.0 Mustangs. As well as we've got a crank sprocket gear that's also billet. And then we're going to go ahead and throw on a fluid super damper just for good measure for all the power and so forth. So once we get those in, we will go ahead and be ready for that 5.0. I'll go ahead and have John here discuss what we got to do to the front of the casing. We probably won't go into too much detail. If you guys are super interested in how we do it, we certainly can discuss it. But otherwise, there's plenty of overviews elsewhere on YouTube by some great developers to ultimately show you how to get the oil pump gears in, that sprocket gear in. Probably take about 3, 4, or 5 hours to get done. But otherwise, on the Gen 3, we've got a little bit extra. So John, why don't you go ahead and tell us ultimately what we're going to do here.
Okay, so to get to the oil pump and replace the gears, we're going to have to, starting at the top here, we'll take the coils out. We'll go ahead and take the spark plugs out so that we don't have pressure build up when we're trying to turn the crank around. We'll take off the DI fuel system that's mounted up to the top here that gets actuated by the cams. And then we'll be able to take the valve covers off, which will allow us to slide the timing cover off because it's retained right here and here. We'll have to take the damper off, and we've already talked about replacing that when we get back to it. We've already got the accessories off, so that's nice. And then the oil pan's already off, and of course the pickup tube with that, which is nice since the pickup tube actually attaches to the oil pump, obviously, and that we'd have to worry about that if it was attached in the car.
Cool, guys. So we're going to go ahead and time lapse most of this. Again, if you want details, let us know, but there's plenty of guides covering what we're going to be doing here. While we're working on that, we're also going to be doing some painting on those upper mounts, the trans member, and a few other small parts. We also ended up making a bracket, which I think we already went over for that one coil, and a few other brackets we need to modify on the transmission for the shifter linkage and for the fuel lines and a couple of the other electrical harnesses, things like that, just to make sure that everything clears underneath of the tunnel. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just jump right into it, get some time lapse going. If we find anything interesting, we'll go ahead and cover it. And yeah, it should be a pretty straightforward episode. A lot of work here, but I think you guys will enjoy watching it. So let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, so right now, what we got going on is we had this broken connector right here. That is the connector for the oil pressure sensor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that sensor, or well, the connector with this one, this new one. This should be a identical replacement. Obviously these 3 pins all have the same color wire, so we just got to make sure that those are matching these colored wires here, and make sure all our pinouts the same on this connector. Luckily it's pretty easy, it's just a 3-pin connector. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off some of this excess wire on this one, and then I'm going to take some of the strands off one of the wires that I cut off and use that to wire wrap the wires together before I solder them. That allows that just makes it a little easier, and then creates a better connection, stronger connection that's harder to break in the future. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, so we got the first one done. Let's see if we can get in zoom. Simple job, simple wire wrap, kind of hard to see if it'll focus. But you can see that strand of wire wrapped around the two to hold it together while I solder. Held the iron onto the wires for a little bit of time, heat them all up, and then just start pressing that solder through. And it sucks right inside, connects them all. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, the next ones. But we do have this heat shrink, so we'll clean that up and we'll have that connection done.
All right, guys, so we got the timing cover off. Everything is set up. We went ahead and, well, actually, we need to move it now. We're going to go ahead and move the crank for the F-150 Gen 3s to the 730 position. Once it's at 730, we'll double check the position for this right-hand side head cam. If it's going to be kind of around this spot, we'll go ahead and take it off. If not, we'll do one more revolution to 730. Once that's ready, we'll go ahead and take off this side's timing chain. Then we'll go ahead and move it around 1 plus a little bit more to get it to 330. And once it's at 330, we'll double check over here on that driver's side, left hand, that it's to the right spot, and then we'll go ahead and take off that one, take off the tensioners, take off all the guides, and then we'll be ready to take off our water pump. You would normally have to take off the oil pan as well, but again, we've already got that one taken off, so this will just be able to come straight off once we get the bolts there. All right, so once we have everything off, we'll be able to take off the oil pump here. So a little bit of a hiccup. We ended up having to get a different oil pump with the billet gears already installed. It turns out the MMR oil pump gears that we had actually were meant for the Mustang version. We did not realize that when we ordered it. So we went ahead and just picked up a Mustang oil pump with the billet gears in it. Those can be swapped out for the F-150. The Mustang oil pump gears are a little bit thicker, so a little bit more stout than the F-150 oil pump gears. So it's really just a better upgrade all around. And then we also will swap out that billet sprocket here as well. So we're gonna go ahead and tear it down, and then next we'll be throwing on that new oil pump and that sprocket, getting everything set back up on the timing chains and the timing cover, everything all set up. And then to top it all off, we'll be throwing on that ATI fluid damper. So let's get to it.
I gotta look overseas. This works great.
Jared, why is the water pump stuck?
Hey Melanie, do you approve of the shop doll?
Yes. As long as I am included in the decision when you guys are shopping for it.
All right. You heard it here, folks. First.
Is she gonna have big boobs?
Dude, you're not even recording me.
I'm recording right here.
No, not you. John, you're not even recording.
John, you didn't record anything.
John, you're not even recording anything.
John, what are you?
John,
dumb?
you should unlock this. John.
What is?
What is her role in this shop?
Holy crap! Jared! Jared, there's been a mess.
Yeah.
What is this?
I don't know. Jared didn't want to do this himself.
Is it bad to get it in there?
I'm taking it off. It's bad to get it in here.
Go put a shirt on, John.
John, there's a black one right here.
John, seriously, I don't even know what kind of shirt that is. Team member? Dude, we don't approve of members here. Oh.
They're like, they look perfect.
Just search it. Or just hit enter again. I think it pulls it off.
C2, like better than C3 if it has a split window.
Like,
Yeah,
That shit's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
fire.
That is fire.
But look at the Camaro in the background, buddy. Sheesh.
Yeah, it's the same color
It's the
scheme.
Papa John's car.
Put about four
I just want-
10 wheels. So it's not
You know, I didn't care for classic cars until
so it's plenty to
I
have.
started looking at these.
Price
And
cut.
now all I want are classics.
Jared, price cut on the trailer, 4-wheel trailer.
Plus,
In town, wide body. You wanted like 8K.
they work really
Should've
well.
bought it.
And I chose to do. I
This
like
guy
it.
really is.
So nice.
You like my money on seven?
That's where I.
You like my Hillside stuff?
Um,
That's what I'm trying to do with the Mustang.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, guys, we got the motor mounts and the trans mounts all painted up, looking fantastic. We get some really high durable, high heat paint on them, both sides, looking really, really good. Still have that same gloss style coating from the factory from Ford. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get these moved inside here now that they're all dried out, and we're going to go ahead and start assembling back together these upper mounts and get everything back onto the motor. And same obviously for the transmission cross member, get that ready to be used on the car. John,
What are you?
John, I need you to unlock this. John.
John? John. Come on, don't be so sad.
I'm going to Santa Fe today.
John.